big and serious issues we have today is housing. Where will our person with mental illness live? Now, I talked about this before, in where a person can be encouraged to live by themselves and cope by themselves and become part of a community and lead a responsible life. That can happen with people who do recover well from mental illness, and depending on the diagnosis, for example. I'd like to refer mostly to people with the more serious problems of mental illness, which schizophrenia comes into this category. It is the most serious of all mental illnesses, particularly if it's chronic. And there are many people who have one episode or two maybe of schizophrenia, the symptoms, and go on and can lead and go into their professions and cope really well. I've met a couple of people who can do that. But there are many who can't actually get back to what they were before the illness was. They find it very difficult. They have experienced so much sadness within themselves, they haven't been able to achieve anything in life. Now, a lot of these people may be living with family, for example. In my case, my boy's been living with me now for quite a while, mostly living in a little a section of the house that was added to for him to be able to live comfortably with his own room and bathroom, which he didn't necessarily have to always be in the big house with his parents. And as I explained, learning to be responsible is important. But we're all getting older, and there are a lot of families and carers who are now getting quite aged and are very, very worried what will happen, who will look after their person who they have nurtured and looked after for so many years. And at this particular time, I'm now an elderly person. I'm well into my 80s, and I understand that a lot of the people of my age, for example, are really, really concerned because when their person became ill in their youth, many, many years ago, the medication and the treatment for these people was still not understood very well. The older medications were really quite awful. I know because my son was on some of those older medications, and in fact I'm quite sure that they didn't help him. In fact, I think they hindered him in many cases, and the side effects were really horrific. So there could be a number of aged people with serious mental illness now, say in their late 50s, 60s and even 70s, whose parents now are quite really aged, who they have lived with families for many, many years. And this is the big dilemma. Where do these people, how can these people be housed? Now, there are some programs and there are ideas that different people could go to find out. You know, we have the Ministry of Housing, for example. There are group homes, there are some rehabilitation places, but it is really frightening for a family. And my own thoughts on this is to think about it as early as you can about housing. Each family will be different. I can only give you a brief idea of what we decided to do. As a family, we agreed that we wanted to help our person as much as we could. And so we had the opportunity, because of the way our family home is built and the block that it's on, before his father died, we agreed that we'd like to, after we pass away, give him a subdivided block of the land, and one of my other sons, who's a builder, will build it. And over all these years, we've saved a little bit of money and we've put it aside for that building to go ahead. And I can tell you that this past weekend, I had all the children together, and we are now in the process of starting the building of the unit. We have found out that we can subdivide. We don't have to subdivide until after I pass away, so that he can live in the flat, in this little unit, quite independently. I've made provisions in a will. So why I'm telling you these things is that you need to think about it very carefully and prepare what you want to do. Each one of us is individual. Each one of us has got a different family structure. But the earlier we think about it, the calmer we think about it, the logic behind how we do it is important. Speak with a number of organisations that can give you advice. If you feel you want your person and you may not have the means for them to have more income, the Ministry of Housing, you need to know that there are long waiting lists. So the basic thing with all of this, there are non-government sector organisations around all over Australia, for example, that would give information. But you yourselves as a family need to think carefully, be united, and talk with your person who has the problem. Let them know when they're well enough what the program could be, and ask them what their wishes are too, because we have to respect, as I explained many times, the person didn't ask to get sick. We didn't ask them to get sick either. These mental illnesses are difficult to manage, so the earlier we discuss this, the better. You can become organised and understand that the person with illness also has ideas themselves. We're all different, but the more information you have and the plans you make are really important. And for example, if you are preparing and organising what is going to happen and who can help your person with illness after you're not here anymore, it would be very important to get legal advice, but to get legal advice from someone who understands mental illness, because sometimes if you don't understand the symptoms of illness, it can make you make decisions which are not in the best interests of your relative who has serious mental illness. When the solicitor may not really understand the extent of the illness of the person, for example, may not understand all the symptoms that the person has, and may perhaps just draw on these solutions that he's learned or that are in a book. He may need to understand that the relative, for example, has relapses at different times. So these are the simple things that I might suggest that and there are people who are in the legal profession who do understand mental illness, so I think you have to shop around and ask. And I would suggest that some of the non-government sector agencies may have people that they may know they could help you with. So it's a matter of shopping around and asking.